You're nothing but a worthless college dropout. Don't you dare show your face here again. Those were my mother's final words before she slammed the door in my face. I stood on the front porch of the house where I'd grown up, suitcase. At my feet and through the window, I could see my younger sister, Cassandra, laughing with our parents in the living room. That was 5 years ago. I was 22 then. My name is Athena. I'm 27 now. Back then, I was the family's disappointment, the one who didn't live up to expectations, the one considered too ordinary, too plain, too much of a failure to deserve love or support. Cassandra, on the other hand, was everything I wasn't. Beautiful, ambitious, intelligent, and most importantly, their golden child. Growing up in Nashville, Tennessee, I learned early on that love in our family came with conditions. My parents, both successful business owners, had clear expectations for their daughters. We were supposed to be attractive, accomplished, and perfect reflections of their status. Cassandra fit that image effortlessly. I did not. I remember the moment everything unraveled. I was in my 3rd year of college studying graphic design, something I loved deeply, creating art, blending colors, bringing ideas to life on a screen. But my parents despised it. They wanted me to study business or law, something prestigious they could boast about at their country club dinners. Graphic design is for people who can't handle real work, my father said when I told him my major. You're wasting our money on nonsense. My mother was harsher. She never missed a chance to compare me to Cassandra, who at the time was studying pre-med. Your sister will be a doctor, she'd say. What will you be? Someone who makes pretty pictures? The constant criticism broke me down. Every phone call home turned into an interrogation. Every visit became another lecture about my choices, my looks, my future. They made it clear I was a disappointment. When I started struggling with depression and anxiety, they told me to stop being dramatic. When my grades slipped, they threatened to cut me off financially. I tried to hold on, but the pressure became unbearable. My mental health crumbled. I stopped attending classes. I stopped eating properly. I stopped believing I had any worth. One particularly dark night, I made the decision to leave college. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't see another way forward. When I told my parents, their reaction was immediate. My mother screamed at me for hours about how I'd humiliated them, how I was throwing my life away, how I was too blind to see the mistake I was making. My father just stared at me with disgust and said I was no longer his daughter. Cassandra stood in the doorway the entire time, smirking. She'd always enjoyed my failures. They made her shine brighter by comparison. My parents gave me 1 week to pack up and leave. No money, no place to go, no family support. I was completely on my own, and I was terrified. For months, I bounced between friends' couches, taking whatever work I could find, waitressing, retail, cleaning offices at night, anything to survive. I felt like I'd hit rock bottom with no way up. But something shifted inside me during those dark months. Maybe it was anger, maybe desperation, maybe just sheer stubbornness. I decided I would no longer let them define me. I would no longer accept their version of who I was supposed to be. I saved every dollar I earned. I taught myself advanced design software through free online tutorials. I built a portfolio of work in every spare moment. I reached out to small businesses, offering to design logos and websites for cheap just to build experience. Slowly, painfully slowly, I began to build something. It wasn't easy. There were nights I went to bed hungry because I had to choose between food and internet access. There were times I nearly gave up, when the voice in my head, sounding suspiciously like my mother, told me I was foolish to think I could succeed without them. But I kept going. Eventually, my work improved. My clients grew, my rates increased. I moved from couch surfing to a tiny studio apartment, then to a 1-bedroom, from freelancing to founding my own design agency. 5 years passed. 5 years of exhaustion, persistence, and proving everyone wrong. 5 years of becoming someone I could finally be proud of. I had cut off all contact with my family, changed my phone number, moved across the city. I wanted nothing to do with them. And then one warm spring evening, I got a message from an old high school friend on social media. She was inviting me to Cassandra's graduation party. My sister had finally earned her medical degree, and my family was throwing a lavish celebration at an upscale venue downtown. The invitation felt like a trap. Why would they want me there? After everything that had happened? But as I stared at the message, something inside me shifted. Maybe it was finally time to face them again. Not as the broken, desperate girl they had cast aside, but as the woman I had become. I spent the next week debating whether to attend. Part of me wanted to ignore the invitation completely, to continue my life without them in it. I had built something meaningful without their support or approval. Why return now? Yet another part of me, the part still carrying the sting of their rejection, wanted them to see what I had achieved. I wanted them to understand that I had survived without them, thrived even. The party was scheduled for Saturday evening at one of Nashville's most exclusive venues. I knew my parents would spare no expense for Cassandra's celebration. They loved showing off, loved proving to everyone how successful they were, and how perfect their family appeared. I decided to go, not because I craved their approval anymore, and not because I hoped for some emotional reunion. I went because I wanted to stand before them as an equal and show them exactly what they had discarded. The days leading up to the party were unsettling. I found myself reflecting on my childhood more than I had in years. Memories I had tried to bury resurfaced. I remembered being 8 years old, proudly showing my parents a drawing from school. The teacher had praised it, displayed it on the wall, and told me I had real talent. My mother barely glanced at it before telling me to do my homework. My father didn't even look up from his newspaper. I remembered being 13, overhearing my mother on the phone with her sister, complaining that I wasn't developing as quickly as Cassandra, that I'd likely be the plain daughter, and hoping I would at least be smart enough to make up for it. I remembered being 16, winning my first award in a design competition at school, rushing home excited to share the news, only to have my parents dismiss it because Cassandra had made the honor roll again. Every memory reinforced the same message. I wasn't enough. I would never be enough, not for them. But now, sitting in my own apartment, paid for entirely through my work and surrounded by success I had built from nothing, I realized something important. Their opinion no longer mattered. I had proven myself to the one person who truly counted, me. The evening of the party arrived. I spent hours preparing, not to impress anyone, but to feel confident. I wore a simple yet elegant black dress I had saved for. I applied my makeup carefully. I styled my hair. When I looked in the mirror, I saw someone strong looking back, someone who had endured. The venue was even more extravagant than I had imagined. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, white flowers covered every surface. A string quartet played classical music in the corner. Servers in crisp uniforms moved through the room with champagne and appetizers. It was exactly the sort of grand display my parents adored. I arrived fashionably late, giving myself a moment to observe before anyone noticed. The room was filled with people. I recognized some from my childhood, extended family, old family friends, and my parents' business associates. Everyone was dressed to impress, smiling and talking. Everyone was there for Cassandra. My sister stood at the center of the room in a stunning white dress, every inch the accomplished medical school graduate. She laughed at something someone said, her hand resting on the arm of a handsome man I didn't recognize, likely her boyfriend. My parents stood proudly on either side of her, their faces beaming. A familiar tightness gripped my chest as I watched them. That was supposed to be me. I was supposed to be the one they were proud of. But I had failed their expectations, and they had cast me aside like I was nothing. I took a deep breath and stepped farther into the room. Several people glanced my way, but no one seemed to recognize me. I had changed a lot in 5 years, thinner now, more composed, carrying myself differently. The scared, depressed college dropout was gone. In her place stood someone who had learned to survive. I walked to the bar and ordered a glass of wine. As I waited, I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Athena, is that you?" I turned to find Professor Howard, one of my favorite teachers from college. He taught in the arts department and had been one of the few who encouraged my design work before I dropped out. He looked older now, more gray in his hair, but his kind eyes hadn't changed. "Professor Howard," I said, genuinely surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I teach at the medical school now," he explained. "Cassandra was one of my students. Brilliant girl, very driven. He paused, studying my face. I heard you left school. I always wondered what happened to you. You had such talent. His words hit me harder than I expected. Here was someone who had believed in me, who had seen potential in my work, and I had vanished without explanation. I explained carefully. I had some personal challenges. But I'm doing well now. I run my own design agency. His face brightened. Really? That's wonderful. I always knew you had the potential. Your work was always remarkable, even back then. We spoke for a few more minutes, catching up on the years we had missed. He seemed genuinely pleased to see me doing well, something I couldn't say about most people in this room. When our conversation ended, Professor Howard excused himself to greet other guests. I watched him leave, feeling grateful for his kindness, but also deeply aware of the isolation pressing in around me, in a room full of people who were supposed to be my family and friends. I drifted through the party almost unseen. Faces glanced at me, eyes sliding past with no recognition. 5 years had changed everything. I was only 22 when they last saw me, young and broken. Now I was 27, composed and successful. They didn't make the connection. I stopped near the dessert table when I heard my mother's voice. She was speaking to a group of women, all dressed in designer outfits, all wearing the same polished smile. We're just so proud of Cassandra, she was saying. Medical school has been challenging, but she never gave up. She's always been focused and determined, unlike some people. The last words were aimed at me, though she never said my name. A surge of anger rose sharp in my chest. Yes, we're very fortunate, my father added, joining the conversation. Both of our daughters are doing well. Cassandra is about to become a doctor, and our eldest is thriving in business. I froze. What was he saying? They had disowned me. They had told me I was nothing. And now they were lying, pretending to their friends that everything was fine, pretending they were proud of me. One of the women asked, "Oh, I didn't know you had another daughter. Where is she? I'd love to meet her." My mother's smile tightened. She couldn't make it tonight. Work commitments, you know how it is. The lie was smooth, almost rehearsed. How many times had they told this same story? How long had they been maintaining this illusion of a perfect family while discarding me? I wanted to march over and expose them. I wanted to tell everyone that I was the daughter they were lying about, the one they abandoned. But something held me back, maybe caution, maybe strategy. Or maybe I just wanted to see how far their deception went before revealing the truth. So I observed. I moved around the room, listening closely, piecing together the narrative they had created. It became clear they had told everyone I was working abroad, too busy with my successful career to attend family events, always sending my regards but never present. They had built an entire fiction. I was still their accomplished daughter, simply absent by choice. The realization made me sick. They wanted the credit for raising 2 successful daughters while erasing the fact that they had cast me aside. As I processed this, Cassandra walked past, heading toward a group of young people, likely her medical school friends. She glanced at me briefly, her eyes sliding past without recognition, then continued on. My own sister didn't recognize me. The same sister I grew up with, laughed with, fought with. To her, I no longer existed. I followed at a distance, curious about what she was telling her friends. They congratulated her, talking about their futures, sharing stories from medical school. Cassandra was glowing, enjoying every word. "Your family must be so proud," one friend said. Cassandra smiled. "They are. My parents have always supported me, pushed me to be my best." Another friend asked, "Do you have siblings?" "I have an older sister," Cassandra replied cautiously, "but we're not close. She made some poor choices years ago, and we don't really talk anymore." Poor choices. That's how she framed my breakdown, my depression, my fight to survive. "That's sad," one friend said. Cassandra shrugged. "Some people just can't handle pressure. My parents tried everything for her, but she threw it all away. She dropped out of college and disappeared. We don't even know what she's doing now." The casual cruelty of her words stung more than I expected. She spoke about me like a stranger, dismissing my struggles as weakness, ignoring the years of abuse we had both endured. I wanted to confront her, to show her the life I had built, to prove her wrong. But I held back. The night was still young. There would be time for the truth later. I stepped away from Cassandra's group and moved toward a quieter part of the room. Professor Howard appeared again, this time accompanied by a middle-aged man in a sharp, expensive suit. "Athena," Professor Howard said warmly. I want you to meet someone. This is Dr. Gregory, the dean of the medical school. I was just telling him about your design agency. Dr. Gregory extended his hand, and I shook it. Pleasure to meet you, he said. Professor Howard speaks very highly of your work. Thank you, I replied, surprised by the professor's praise. Actually, Dr. Gregory continued, we've been searching for someone to redesign our medical school's website and branding materials. The current design is outdated. Would you be interested in discussing a potential contract? My heart skipped a beat. This was the kind of opportunity that could elevate my agency to the next level. And it was happening here, at my sister's graduation party, while my family acted like I didn't exist. I'd be very interested, I said, keeping my voice calm despite my racing pulse. We exchanged contact details, and Dr. Gregory promised to reach out the following week to schedule a formal meeting. As he walked away, Professor Howard smiled. Opportunities appear when we least expect them, he said gently. I nodded, though my mind was spinning. The night had taken a surprising turn, and I had a feeling things were about to shift even more. After Dr. Gregory left, I excused myself from Professor Howard and stepped onto the terrace. I needed air, space to process everything. The cool night breeze felt refreshing against my flushed skin. The terrace overlooked downtown Nashville, its city lights twinkling in the distance. I leaned against the railing, closing my eyes as I tried to calm the storm of emotions inside me. Anger, satisfaction, confusion, vindication, all tangled together. I heard footsteps behind me and turned to see a woman I didn't recognize. She was in her 50s with perfectly styled gray hair and an elegant blue dress. She smiled warmly. Needed a break from the crowd? She asked, moving to stand beside me at the railing. Something like that, I replied. I'm Helen, she introduced herself. I'm a colleague of Cassandra's father. We've worked together for years. My father's colleague. I kept my expression neutral. Nice to meet you. You look familiar, Helen said, studying my face. Have we met before? I don't think so, I said carefully. She tilted her head. No, I'm sure I've seen you somewhere. Maybe in photos. Then her eyes widened slightly. Oh my goodness. Are you Athena? My stomach dropped. So someone did recognize me after all? Yes, I said quietly. Helen's face softened with genuine warmth. I've heard so much about you. Your parents mentioned you're doing very well in business. They said you're working overseas, but I'm so glad you could make it tonight. Cassandra must be thrilled to have her sister here. The lies my parents told were even more elaborate than I'd realized. I didn't correct Helen. Instead, I simply smiled and let her continue. Your father showed me some photos of your work last month, Helen went on. Beautiful designs. He was so proud. He keeps a portfolio of your projects in his office. This was almost too much. My father kept a portfolio of my work, the same man who had called my career worthless, who had disowned me for pursuing it. That's surprising, I said, unable to hide the edge in my voice. Helen didn't seem to notice. Oh, he talks about you all the time. Both his daughters are so accomplished. You must have wonderful parents to have raised such successful children. I felt sick. They were taking credit for my achievements, the success I had built entirely without them, using it to enhance their own reputation while pretending I was too busy to attend family events. Excuse me, I said abruptly. I need to find the restroom. I left Helen on the terrace and went back inside, my hands trembling with rage. I wanted to confront them, to expose their lies right there in front of all their friends and colleagues. I wanted everyone to know the truth. But as I looked around the room, my parents surrounded by admirers, Cassandra glowing in the spotlight, the perfect picture they had created, I realized confronting them publicly would make me look bitter and unstable. They would spin it as jealousy, as me being the problem child they had always claimed I was. I needed to be smarter. I needed evidence, something they couldn't dismiss or explain away. I pulled out my phone and began recording voice memos, documenting everything, the lies people were telling me about how proud my parents were, the way my family pretended I was still part of their lives, the elaborate fiction they had constructed. As I did this, I saw Cassandra break away from her group and head toward the hallway leading to the private rooms. I followed at a distance. She entered one of the smaller conference rooms off the main hall. I waited a moment, then pushed the door open slightly. Cassandra was on her phone, her back to me. I know, Mom, she was saying into the phone. I'm handling it. No one has asked about her specifically. Everyone believes the story about her working overseas. She paused, listening. What if she shows up? Mom, she doesn't know about the party. We didn't invite her. Even if she found out somehow, she wouldn't have the nerve to come back after 5 years. My heart pounded. They were actively working to keep me away. This wasn't just casual lying. They had deliberately planned to exclude me and then cover up my absence. Cassandra continued, Yes, I spoke to the lawyer last week. Because she's been out of touch for so long and there's proof she dropped out and cut ties, we should be able to claim her share as forfeited. It might take time, but he's confident we can make it happen. I felt like someone had hit me in the stomach. My grandmother had set up trust funds for both of us before she died. I'd never really thought about it because survival had been my focus. But my family clearly had. They weren't just taking credit for my achievements. They were actively trying to take money that rightfully belonged to me. Cassandra laughed at something my mother said on the other end of the line. Don't worry, she made her decision when she dropped out. She chose to throw her life away. That money is better off with someone who actually used their education and made you proud. Her words echoed in my mind. She chose to throw her life away, as if my mental breakdown had been voluntary, as if their years of emotional abuse had nothing to do with it. As if I had wanted to fight for every bit of stability I could get. I stepped back from the door before Cassandra could notice me. My hands trembled so much I could barely hold my phone. But I had recorded the entire call. I finally had proof. Evidence of their lies, manipulation, and plans to take what was mine. I walked back to the main hall in a daze. Everything I thought I knew about this night had shifted. This wasn't just about them being ashamed of my dropout status. This was about money, about them rewriting history to take my inheritance and keep their perfect image. I needed advice. I pulled out my phone and texted my business partner, Jordan, the only one who knew my full story. My message was simple: need legal help. Family trying to take inheritance. Have recorded proof. What do I do? His reply came quickly. Do not confront them yet. Leave the party. Meet me at the office tomorrow morning. Bring everything you have. We'll handle this properly. He was right. I needed to be careful. But leaving now felt impossible. I had come here to face them, and I wasn't going to run away again. I steadied myself and walked back into the heart of the party. The evening was reaching its peak. My father was about to give a speech, and everyone was gathering around a small stage at the back of the room. I stood at the edge of the crowd where I could see everything but remain unnoticed. My father climbed onto the stage, microphone in hand, his most charming smile in place. Good evening, everyone, he began. Thank you for joining us to celebrate this special occasion. Today, we honor my daughter Cassandra, who has worked tirelessly to achieve her dream of becoming a doctor. The crowd applauded. Cassandra stood beside my mother, looking radiant. As a father, he continued, there's nothing more rewarding than seeing your children succeed. My wife and I have been blessed with 2 remarkable daughters, both intelligent, driven, and determined to make their mark on the world. My jaw clenched. He was doing it again, pretending he was proud of me, pretending we were one big, happy family. Cassandra has always been focused and determined, he went on. Even as a child, she knew she wanted to help people. She never wavered. And tonight, as she graduates from one of the finest medical schools in the country, we couldn't be prouder. More applause. I noticed Professor Howard in the crowd, watching with a polite expression. Dr. Gregory stood nearby, nodding along. Our other daughter, Athena, couldn't be here tonight due to work commitments overseas, my father added smoothly. But she sends her love and congratulations. Athena has built a successful design business and travels extensively for work. We're proud of both our girls and the women they've become. His ability to lie so easily was staggering. He delivered these falsehoods with such conviction that, for a moment, I almost believed him myself. Almost. Family is everything, my father concluded. And tonight, we celebrate not only Cassandra's achievement, but the strength of family bonds that carry us through life's challenges. To Cassandra, the crowd echoed, raising their glasses. I didn't raise mine. I stood there watching my father step down to embrace my sister, watching my mother wipe happy tears from her eyes, watching everyone cheer for this perfect family moment built on lies. Professor Howard drifted through the crowd and ended up near me again. Lovely speech, he said. Though I'm surprised your sister couldn't make it. I didn't even know you had one until tonight. I looked at him carefully. He seemed genuinely puzzled, not trying to trap me. That's interesting, I said slowly. Because I am his other daughter. Professor Howard's eyes widened. He looked from me to my father and back. I don't understand. He just said you were overseas. He lied, I said simply. I'm right here. I've been here all evening. And no one in my family has recognized me because they haven't seen me in 5 years. Not since they disowned me for dropping out of college. The professor stared at me, processing. I could see him connecting the pieces that didn't fit. But he just said he was proud of you, he said. He said you have a successful business. I do, I confirmed. But they don't know that. They have no idea what I've been doing since they kicked me out. They've been inventing stories about me to save face with their friends. Professor Howard looked genuinely shocked. That's terrible. Why would they do that? Because they care more about their reputation than about me, I said. The words were bitter but true. Before he could answer, Dr. Gregory joined us. Everything all right here? He asked, sensing the tension. Professor Howard looked at me, giving me the choice of whether to explain. I made a quick decision. Dr. Gregory, I said, I need to be honest with you before we move forward with any business discussions. He looked intrigued. Go ahead. My full name is Athena. My last name is the same as Cassandra's because she's my sister. I'm the daughter my father mentioned in his speech, the one he said was overseas. Dr. Gregory's expression shifted from interest to confusion. I don't follow. You're here. You're not overseas. Exactly, I said. My father lied. He's been lying to everyone here about me. The truth is, they disowned me 5 years ago when I dropped out of college for mental health reasons. They cut me off completely, told me never to contact them again, and pretended I didn't exist, until recently, apparently, when they started telling people I'm successful and busy abroad. They're using my real success, which they know nothing about, to make themselves look like good parents. Dr. Gregory glanced toward the stage where my father was still being congratulated, then back at me. This is a serious accusation. It's not an accusation. It's the truth, I said. I pulled out my phone. I have a recording of my sister speaking with my mother earlier tonight. In it, they discuss how relieved they were that I didn't find out about the party. They also talk about taking my inheritance, claiming I forfeited it by dropping out. Professor Howard's face had gone pale. Athena, this is awful. I had no idea you'd been through something like this. Most people don't know, I said, because I've been focused on rebuilding my life rather than exposing my family's private issues. But I came here tonight because I wanted to see them again. I wanted to face them as someone who succeeded despite them, not because of them. What I didn't expect was to discover they've been lying about me for years and planning to take money that rightfully belongs to me. Dr. Gregory stayed silent for a moment, carefully studying my face. Can you prove you are who you say you are? He asked. I took out my driver's license and showed it to him. My name, my birth date, my Nashville address. Everything matched. I believe you, he said at last. And I'm deeply troubled by what you've told me. But I need to consider carefully how to proceed with our business discussions. This places me in a difficult position, as your father is a respected colleague and I've known your family for years. My heart sank. Once again, my family's reputation seemed to outweigh my truth. It always had, but Professor Howard spoke up. With respect, Dr. Gregory, Athena's family situation has nothing to do with her professional skills. I taught her in college before she left. Her work was outstanding then, and by what she's shared, she's only grown since. Penalizing her professionally because of her family's dysfunction would be completely unfair. Dr. Gregory paused, then nodded slowly. You're right. Personal issues shouldn't influence professional opportunities. Athena, I'll contact you next week as planned. What's between you and your family is separate. Your work speaks for itself. Relief swept over me, but it didn't last. I saw my mother walking toward us, her face arranged in a pleasant smile. She was bringing someone with her, likely to introduce to the dean. Dean Gregory, my mother called out as she approached. I wanted to introduce you to some of our close family friends. She stopped short when she reached us, her eyes landing on me. For a moment I saw recognition, then confusion, then a flicker of panic. Athena, she whispered, the color draining from her face. Hello, Mother, I said calmly. Lovely party, though I notice I wasn't invited. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She glanced at Dr. Gregory and Professor Howard, clearly trying to control the situation. "What are you doing here?" she finally asked, her voice tight. "I was invited by a friend," I replied. "Though I've been here for over an hour, and this is the first time anyone from my family has recognized me." "Interesting, isn't it?" Her eyes darted nervously around the room. Guests nearby were beginning to notice the tension. "We should talk privately," she said, reaching for my arm. I stepped back, avoiding her touch. "Why?" "You've been discussing me publicly all evening, telling everyone how proud you are, how successful I am, how I'm overseas managing my thriving business. Might as well keep it public, don't you think?" "You don't understand," my mother hissed, her pleasant mask slipping. "We were trying to protect the family." "Protect the family?" I repeated loudly enough for others to hear. "Is that what you call disowning your daughter? Abandoning her when she was struggling with her mental health? Kicking her out with nowhere to go? You made your choice when you dropped out," my mother said defensively. "You threw away everything we gave you." "What you gave me?" My anger rose. "You gave me criticism, comparisons, and conditional love. And when I couldn't take the pressure anymore, you threw me away like I was nothing." My father appeared then, drawn by the commotion. His face went through the same sequence of emotions as my mother's: recognition, confusion, panic. "Athena," he said carefully, "this isn't the time or place for this conversation." "Really?" "Because you had plenty to say about me in your speech," I shot back. "All those lies about how proud you are, about my successful overseas business, about family support. Should we tell everyone the truth, Dad? Should we tell them you haven't spoken to me in 5 years? That you told me I was no longer your daughter?" The room had grown quieter. People were clearly watching now. Conversations had stopped, and guests were turning to see what was happening. I saw Cassandra pushing through the crowd, her face pale with alarm. "Athena, please," my father said, trying to stay composed. "You're making a scene." "I'm making a scene?" I laughed bitterly. "You've been making up an entire fictional life for me, using my real success, which you know nothing about, to make yourselves look like supportive parents. And now you're upset I'm calling you out?" Cassandra reached us, her eyes wide. "What's going on?" "Your sister decided to show up uninvited and create drama at your graduation party," my mother said sharply. "Typical of her to try to ruin your special day. Uninvited?" I turned to Cassandra. "Funny thing about that, I overheard your phone call earlier, the one where you told Mom how relieved you were I didn't know about the party and wouldn't show up. The one where you discussed taking my inheritance?" Cassandra's face went white. "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone. "I recorded it. Want me to play it for everyone here? Let them hear you and Mom planning to claim I forfeited my trust fund. Let them hear you laugh about how I threw my life away." "You're insane," Cassandra spat. "You always were unstable and dramatic." "I was struggling," I corrected her coldly. "I was depressed, anxious, and desperate for help. And instead of supporting me, you mocked me. All of you did. You made me feel worthless until I believed it myself." Professor Howard cleared his throat. "I think everyone here should hear this. I taught Athena in college. She was one of the most talented students I've ever had. When she left school, I was heartbroken because I knew she had incredible potential, but was battling something deeper than academics." He looked directly at my parents. "A good family would have helped her through that. Instead, from what I'm hearing tonight, you abandoned her when she needed you most. And now you're trying to take credit for her success and seize her inheritance. That isn't family. That's exploitation." My father's face turned red with anger and embarrassment. "You have no right to judge our family decisions. You don't know the full story." "Then enlighten us," Dr. Gregory said quietly. Everyone turned to him. "I'd very much like to hear your version of events, because right now, what I'm hearing paints a very troubling picture." The crowd had grown larger. People were whispering, some with their phones out recording. My parents' perfect image was collapsing in real time, and there was nothing they could do. My mother tried once more to save the moment. "Athena has always been troubled. We tried everything to help her, but she refused our support. When she dropped out, we were devastated. We gave her space, hoping she'd return, but she disappeared. We've been searching for her for years." "That's a lie," I said firmly. "You told me never to contact you again. You changed your numbers? You made it clear I was dead to you. I didn't disappear, you erased me. And the only reason you're upset now is because I showed up and ruined the story you've been telling." Jordan, my business partner, suddenly appeared at my side. Seeing his familiar face brought me relief. He must have tracked my location when I texted him earlier and decided to come. "Everything okay here?" Jordan asked, though his tone said he already knew it wasn't. "Jordan," I said gratefully. "These are my parents." "Parents?" "This is Jordan, my business partner. We run Athena design agency together. Perhaps you'd like to see the portfolio Dad supposedly keeps in his office. Except you can't because he doesn't have one. He has no idea what I've been doing for the past 5 years." Jordan pulled out his tablet and opened our AY website. "Athena Design Agency," he announced, tilting the screen so nearby guests could read. "Founded 3 years ago, it currently employs 15 people. Last year's revenue topped $2 million. We serve clients nationwide, including several Fortune 500 firms." He swiped through the portfolio, site designs, brand identities, marketing campaigns, project after polished project. All my work, done without a single cent or ounce of help from my family, I thought. "This is what Athena built after you threw her out," Jordan said, his tone measured but sharp. "She started with nothing. She slept on couches, held 3 jobs while teaching herself advanced design, and saved until she could afford her own place. She freelanced until she had enough clients to launch an agency. She did this alone, and she succeeded." My mother watched the screen, expression unreadable. My father's jaw was so tight I worried it would crack. Cassandra looked as if she'd been stunned. $2 million? My father finally said, the greed audible under his shock. "That's revenue, not profit," Jordan corrected. "But yes, the business is doing very well. Athena is one of Nashville's most in-demand designers, which makes it especially troubling that you've been taking credit for her work while trying to claim her inheritance." "We weren't stealing," my mother protested weakly. "We were only claiming what was rightfully ours after she abandoned the family." "I have a recording that says otherwise," I reminded them. Cassandra was explicit on the call about the plan to argue I forfeited my trust. I'm sure a judge would want to hear it. Professor Howard spoke up. "What's most concerning is the pattern. You didn't just kick Athena out when she was vulnerable. You've spent 5 years lying about her, using her success for your own image, and now you're trying to take her money. This isn't a family disagreement. It's systematic abuse and fraud." Several guests nodded. I saw some of my parents' friends shift from confusion to disgust. Their carefully maintained image was unraveling. Dr. Gregory addressed my parents directly. "I've known your family for years and respected you as colleagues and friends. What I'm hearing tonight is deeply troubling. If even half of what your daughter says is true, this behavior is reprehensible." "It's all true," I said firmly. "Every word. And I can prove it. I have documents showing you cut me off, the recording of Cassandra discussing the trust fund, and witnesses who can attest to my condition when you abandoned me. I spent 5 years building a life separate from you with no support or contact." My father tried one last appeal. "Athena, you're being vindictive. Yes, mistakes were made. Words were said in anger. But we're still your family. We can handle this privately. Now you want privacy?" I asked, incredulous. "After you publicly lied about me tonight and gave that heartfelt speech about family pride, you can't pick when to be public and when to be private just because it suits you." Jordan leaned in and whispered, "The lawyer's here. I called him after you texted. He's waiting outside." I nodded and faced my parents. "Here's what will happen tomorrow morning. You will meet with my lawyer. You will provide full documentation about the trust fund my grandmother left me. You will sign papers stating you have no claim to that money and will not interfere with my access. Do it quickly and quietly, and if we refuse?" My father challenged. "Then I tell everyone here the full story," I said. "I play Cassandra's recording. I share the documents. I make sure everyone in your social circle and business network knows who you really are. I'll destroy the reputation you value so highly." My mother's face shifted from pale to flushed. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me," I replied coldly. "I have nothing to lose. You took everything from me once. I rebuilt without you. I don't need your money or approval. But I won't let you steal from me and pretend to be proud parents while doing it." Cassandra finally spoke. "This is insane. You show up after 5 years and threaten us." "I didn't threaten you," I corrected. "I gave you a choice. Sign away any claim to what's rightfully mine or face the consequences of your actions. It's that simple." Jordan checked his watch. "The lawyer's waiting. Athena, we should go. Let them consider their options overnight." I looked at my family one last time. My mother was crying, careful tears that left her makeup intact. My father looked furious but trapped. Cassandra stared, stunned. Her graduation party had become a public confrontation. "Congratulations on your graduation, Cassandra," I said. "I hope it was everything you wanted." Then I walked toward the exit, Jordan at my side, leaving my family in front of their horrified guests. The lawyer, Marcus, waited in the lobby as promised, sharp-eyed, professional, in his 40s. Jordan had used him on previous business contracts and trusted him completely. Athena Marcus greeted me with a firm handshake. Jordan had already briefed me on the essentials. "This is quite a situation," he said. "That's one way to put it," I replied, still trembling from the confrontation. We moved to a quiet corner of the lobby where Marcus took out a legal pad and began writing notes. I told him everything. The disowning 5 years ago, the lies my family had spread, the phone call I'd overheard about the trust fund, and the recording I had made. "Do you have documentation of the trust fund?" Marcus asked. "I have copies of the original papers my grandmother's lawyer sent me years ago," I said. "I never touched the money because I wanted to prove I could succeed on my own, but I kept all the documents." Marcus nodded approvingly. "Good, that will help. And the recording?" I played it for him. Cassandra's voice came through clearly, discussing with my mother how they planned to claim I'd forfeited the trust fund because I had dropped out and cut contact with the family. Marcus listened closely, jotting notes. When it ended, he looked up. "This is solid evidence of intent to defraud. Combined with their public statements tonight and witness accounts of their treatment of you, we have a strong case." "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we act fast," Marcus said. "Tomorrow morning, I'll send a formal letter to your parents demanding a meeting. I'll outline what we know and what we're prepared to do if they don't cooperate. Considering how much they care about their reputation and the number of respected people who saw tonight's confrontation, I'm confident they'll agree to our terms regarding the trust fund. Based on what you've told me, your grandmother's will didn't require you to finish college or stay in contact with your parents. The money is yours regardless. Any attempt to claim otherwise is fraud. They know this, which is why they tried to act quietly rather than through proper channels." Relief washed over me. "So I can actually get the money?" "You can and you will," Marcus confirmed. "But Athena, I need to ask, what do you want beyond the money? Do you want to press criminal charges for attempted fraud? Sue for emotional damages? Go public about their treatment of you?" I thought about it carefully. Part of me wanted to destroy them the way they had tried to destroy me. Another part just wanted to be free. "I want my money," I said finally. "I want them to sign legal documents stating they have no claim to it and will never contact me again. And I want them to stop lying about me. They don't get to use my success to improve their image anymore." Marcus nodded. "That's reasonable and achievable. I'll draft the documents tonight and have them ready for tomorrow's meeting." Jordan placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did well in there. I know that couldn't have been easy. It was terrifying, I admitted, but necessary. I've been running from them for 5 years. Tonight, I finally stopped." We spent another 30 minutes with Marcus going over details and strategy. By the time we finished, it was nearly 10 p.m. The party was probably winding down. I wondered what my family was telling their remaining guests. As if reading my thoughts, Jordan's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and showed me a text from Professor Howard. "Several people asked about your agency after you left. I gave them your contact info. Tonight might end up being good for business." Ironically, I had to laugh. My family's attempt to protect their image had backfired spectacularly. Not only had I exposed their lies, but I might also gain new clients in the process. "Come on," Jordan said. "Let's get you home. You've had enough drama for one night." He drove me back to my apartment, a comfortable one-bedroom in a nice neighborhood that I had worked hard to afford. As I unlocked the door and stepped inside, the familiar space felt like a sanctuary. "Thank you for coming tonight," I told Jordan. "I don't know what I would have done without you." "That's what partners are for," he said with a smile. "Besides, I wouldn't have missed seeing you stand up to your family. It was epic." After Jordan left, I changed into comfortable clothes and made myself a cup of tea. Sitting on my couch, I looked around at the life I had built. Every piece of furniture, every decoration, every comfort had been earned through my own hard work. My family had given me nothing. I owed them nothing. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. For a moment, I thought it might be one of my parents. But it was from Dr. Gregory. "After tonight's revelations, my offer for the medical school project still stands. In fact, I'm more impressed than ever by what you've accomplished. Let's schedule that meeting for next week. You've earned this opportunity." I smiled and typed back my availability. The meeting with my parents and their lawyer took place 3 days later in Marcus's office. I sat beside Marcus on one side of the conference table. My parents, Cassandra, and their attorney sat on the other. The tension in the room was heavy. Their lawyer, an older man named Donald, tried to take control immediately. My clients are willing to discuss a settlement regarding the trust fund, but they want assurances this matter will remain private. Marcus didn't flinch. Your clients attempted to defraud mine of money that legally belongs to her. They have no leverage here. We're not negotiating. We're informing them of what will happen. He slid copies of documents across the table. These are the terms. First, you will provide complete access to the trust fund established by Athena's grandmother. Second, you will sign a legal document stating you have no claim to that money now or ever. Third, you will cease all contact with Athena unless she initiates it. Fourth, you will immediately stop using her name, her success, or any reference to her in your social or professional circles. My father started to speak, but Marcus raised his hand. I'm not finished. If you fail to comply with these terms, we will pursue criminal fraud charges. We will also provide copies of the recording and witness statements from the graduation party to your colleagues, friends, and business associates. The choice is yours. Donald looked at the documents, then at my parents. My mother was crying again, real tears this time. My father looked defeated. Cassandra stared at the table, refusing to meet my eyes. This is extortion, Donald said weakly. No, Marcus corrected. This is justice. Your clients can sign these papers and move on without the money they tried to steal and the daughter they tried to exploit. Or they can refuse, and we'll ensure everyone knows exactly what they did. Their reputation will be destroyed, and they'll still lose the trust fund case in court. This way, at least they can maintain some dignity. There was a long silence. Finally, my father spoke. How much is in the trust fund? That's no longer your concern, Marcus said. But for the record, it's enough for Athena to live very comfortably. More than comfortably, actually. My mother looked at me then, really looked. How can you do this to your own family? I met her gaze steadily. You stopped being my family 5 years ago when you threw me out. I'm making sure you can't hurt me anymore. We made mistakes, she said desperately, but we're still your parents. Doesn't that mean anything? It used to, I said quietly. It used to mean everything. But you taught me that love is conditional, that I'm only worth caring about if I meet your standards, that my pain and struggles don't matter if they're inconvenient for you. You taught me those lessons very well. Cassandra finally spoke, her voice barely audible. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said those things on the phone. You're not sorry you said them, I corrected. You're sorry I overheard and recorded them. That's different. Marcus tapped the documents firmly. We need a decision. Sign or we proceed with disclosure and legal action. Donald leaned toward my parents, whispering quickly. They argued in hushed tones. Then my father reached for the pen. This isn't over, he muttered as he signed. Yes, it is, I replied calmly. This is as final as it gets. One by one, they added their signatures. My mother, my father, even Cassandra, who had once been listed as a secondary beneficiary in the original paperwork. Each name on the page felt like a burden lifting from me. When it was finished, Marcus gathered the papers and made copies for everyone. You'll be notified once the trust transfer is complete. That should be within a week, he said. My parents rose to leave. At the door, my mother turned back briefly. I hope you'll be happy, she said, her voice carrying a trace of sincerity. I already am, I answered. I have been for a while. I just had to learn to find it without you. They walked out, leaving me in the sudden silence of the conference room. Marcus glanced at me with a smile. How do you feel? Free, I said simply. For the first time in my life, completely free. 5 days later, the trust fund transfer was complete. The sum was far greater than I had imagined. My grandmother's wise investments had multiplied the fund over the years. Combined with my business income, I now held real financial independence. But the money was secondary. What truly mattered was confronting those who had hurt me, breaking their hold, and protecting my future on my own terms. The following week, the medical school contract came through. Dr. Gregory emphasized that the project was awarded on merit, not sympathy or scandal. My agency's work had proven itself. Meanwhile, my parents' reputation collapsed quickly. News of the graduation party spread, and their social circle turned away. My father's business lost key partners, while my mother withdrew from her clubs, unable to face the scrutiny. Cassandra earned her medical degree, but residency offers were scarce. The recordings and testimonies had raised doubts about her ethics. Eventually, she left the state to rebuild where her past was unknown. Their lives had been built on image and reputation, and when those crumbled, nothing remained. 6 months later, I stood in my expanded office, watching my team manage projects that once seemed impossible. The success felt solid, deserved, and untouchable. I had learned that a meaningful life doesn't require family approval. Sometimes the family you create is the one that truly matters. And sometimes the strongest revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming so successful, so content, so free, that their opinions no longer hold any weight. I had walked away at Cassandra's graduation party, and I never looked back. That was the moment I truly won.